For anyone catching a plane at JFK International Airport in New York, this is a familiar sight. However, on a day not long ago, something different, maybe even strange, was going on. For a short period of time, all traffic was stopped. The control tower was abuzz in anticipation of the arrival of some very special aircraft. A 747 pilot thought he was in the twilight zone.
Kennedy Tower from Blip 217.
217, Kennedy.
We hit the wrong airport.
No, sir.
What do we got here?
These little specks in the sky turned out to be the landing of the United States Aerobatic team on their last stop before leaving for the World Championships in Spitzerberg, Austria.
Flight 3111, third lane. Both on the lane, right there. They are all clear, huh? Where are they parking? Anybody have any idea?
The pit specials, the lasers, the week specials seemed almost lost among their Boeing, Lockheed, and Douglas counterparts. The itinerary for getting to the championships in Europe was quite complex. These pilots rendezvoused at JFK from as far away as San Jose, California. Each had to fly across the country in 200 and 300-mile hops, finally joining formation for their dramatic entrance into this hub of commercial aviation. At this point, another step in the preparation process began. Within the next few hours, each pilot had to disassemble his own aircraft.
Is there any sort of order you want these screws to go in?
I'd like to keep them generally in the same bag.
So, with screwdrivers and other tools, they carefully took the planes apart.
I'm trying to disconnect the static line.
Some were accustomed to the procedure, and others were not.
Right up. Hold it! Hey, we didn't undo the radio yet.
Lift it up. The only instrument required by world competition rules is the G-meter, and that's the only one that's broken, so we're changing it right now.
The planes then had to be packed piece by piece, part by part, into giant shipping modules for transport in a 747 to the continent. They all knew that once the planes were on the other side of the ocean, they faced the process of having to put them all together again, and in this sport, there can be no such thing as a mistake. Kermit Weeks of the United States is anxious to get flying.
I have to leave you now.
Kermit Weeks is 28 years old. He began building his first airplane, believe it or not, while he was in high school, and he flew it for the first time 4 years later.
I haven't done very well in this contest so far, so I'm just going out and having a good time in this flight, and I think I've got a lot of new maneuvers that I think are going to make the judges sit up on their seats while I'm flying, which a lot of times in the 4 minutes they just sit back and you've seen one Lumchevak, you've seen them all, but I hope I'll get their attention.
Well, I think he'll get their attention. Art Show, you've seen Kermit Weeks in practice, so you know what to expect. It's spectacular. Look at this vertical roll that he starts.
Bill, he does 14 vertical rolls. This in comparison to 10 or 12, which is understood as being outstanding. But look at that aircraft go. He's able to do this because of his horsepower-weight ratio. And you know, this is probably the ultimate. You couldn't go any more than this. He's at the top of the box, just spinning like a cork right up there. Watch this now as he comes on down, and he'll flip back into the vertical down position. Outstanding performance. As I said, this is the ultimate in aerobatic flying. I don't think that you could get any more performance out of an airplane in this without having to really jeopardize the top of the box.
Now, when you mentioned the top of the box, he uses all 3,500 vertical feet, doesn't he?
Bill, he has to start at the very bottom so that he doesn't go out through the top. Normally, years ago, everyone worried about always working the top so that you would have enough power to sustain that and stay up on the box. And he doesn't worry about staying in the top. He has to get down so he can get back up again.
You know, Art, Leo Loudenslager, before the competition, made this comparison. He said an Indianapolis driver has to rely on 30% of his ability and 70% of his machine, but when you're in aerobatics, you have to rely on 70% of your ability and only 30% of your machine. Do you agree with that?
Yes, definitely, Bill. And an interesting thing is as the performance of these aircraft get higher, that ratio kind of reverses. So actually, Weeks has got to really be on his toes here flying that, because with that power can actually get him into trouble by going outside of the invisible box. Look at the corkscrewing S. You know, Bill, this is a type of thing that the judges are looking for in this kind of competition.
Well, Kermit Weeks certainly is a showman. In fact, he knows what show business is like, even down to the point of his paint scheme on the aircraft.
The main intention behind it was to present to the judges a little better than most of the Pitts type biplanes. I tried squaring off some of the lines, having geometric type paint jobs so the judges could refer to the angles of the airplane while I was flying. It's black because I think two reasons. Psychologically, with as much horsepower I have, it kind of makes it come across as a mean machine. And also in haze conditions and poor light conditions, the airplane shows up much better to the judges than, say, a white airplane would.
Can you put yourself in that cockpit right now? You're a veteran aerobatic pilot yourself, and tell us exactly what he's doing to effect the performance of the airplane?
Well, Bill, I'd be in there right now looking at the ground and making sure that I'm going to be down. I'm looking at the arrestee card as I'm rolling the ailerons and rudders and actually pulling the G's. Now, I'm looking up ahead because I'm coming to the end of the invisible box, pulling in the vertical position, and I'm snapping back on the stick and rudder as the aircraft goes around. And again, looking at the horizon, looking back at the arrestee card, looking at my watch. I have to watch that I have all the maneuvers precisely in there before that 4 minutes come up. And now at the end of the box, straight back down again, I'm pulling, I'm feeling the G's as I'm coming in. And again, looking at that watch and pulling in the ailerons, pushing negative now. I'm being pushed outside of the aircraft as we snap back into the other position to pull positive, and then negative, and then back to the inverted position, back upright, and then rolling 360, back and forth with all the controls moving at once, watching the ground and looking at the watch.
And what about the throttle?
The throttle usually is pretty much full throttle all the while we're doing this. What a performance.
And that's it. Kermit Weeks concludes it. And as the judges' runners pick up the score so we can get a final tabulation, let's go flying with Kermit Weeks, because earlier this week he permitted us to mount a camera on the nose of his aircraft, looking backwards, so we can see what it's like to do those 14 vertical rolls, perhaps as you would have seen it in the air had you been with him. Great performance, Kermit Weeks has won the free program event at the World Aerobatic Championship. And get this, the United States had a sweep of the free program because Leo Laudenslager was second, Henry Haig was third.